creeds, Ethiopia stood as a temple unfolding. If they weren't playing, okay. So, yeah, Ethiopia had its own thing going. Okay, now the hidden pilgrims, Templars, and the African Gate. Yeah, I'm spinning the block on that because some folks was real upset about them black people kicking out them good old Templars out of there. All they wanted to do was show love and kindness, and be kind to one another, like the movie. That's all they want to do. Yeah. Okay. Volta saying Susenyos the first converted to Catholicism briefly before he was dethroned and orthodoxy was restored. They weren't playing with that. Yeah, you can do that if you want to. Yeah. Yeah, there were some times when it did happen. I do agree. I stand corrected. Shout out to the fam. That's what's up. Yeah, they weren't having that. Yeah. But yeah, so after Crusades and the Knights Templar emerged, as a powerful military and spiritual brotherhood. They were warrior monks sworn to protect the Roman Catholic interest, but their mission soon became esoteric. It became symbolic, right? And their base beneath Solomon's Temple in Jerusalem gave rise to rumors that they had recovered ancient relics, scrolls, sacred technology, or even knowledge of the Ark itself. But in 1307, as we know, well, some people know that the Templars were betrayed. And I'm going to say this, though. Speaking of the Templars, a lot of people nowadays, in the last couple of centuries, like the 20th century on up, they would use Knights Templar symbolism and whatnot, but it would be from a Protestant viewpoint, not realizing that the Knights Templar was French and Roman Catholic. You're welcome. So, but yeah, some escaped, dealing with the betrayal of the French crown, and the Pope was on their head, and some escaped. And the legends say that they journeyed south, and not just to hide, but to reconnect to something older. Okay, now this is where the legend of Prester John shows up. Okay, they start looking for this cat named Prester John. They start looking for him. They say, "Hey, where's Prester John? Where he at? And, and where can we find him?" And they were really looking for Prester John for a minute, and they were really seeking after this man and not realizing that Prester John may or may not have been a real person. Yeah. So, but okay, you're looking for Prester John. Here you go. Right. So, as early as the 12th century, European kings and popes wrote letters to this mysterious sovereign in Ethiopia with his ancient Christian tradition, divine kingship, monk orders of rituals, and the monks and rumored guardianship of the art became the likely homeland of this legend. So they weren't just looking for a dude named Prester John; they were looking for the art. Okay, but before we go further into that, though, I got a review. Got a review. Before we get into it, I got a review. All right. Now, the question was based on the video, Connecting the Dots, Sacred Links Across East Africa. The question was this, y'all. Which European military organization had close encounters with ancient Ethiopia? I underline European. Okay. The Knights Templar, the Ottomans, the Magi, the Copts. But now, get this. These people were picking the Ottoman Empire. I said European. But if you were paying attention and if you got it correctly, you got an A for the day. If you got it correct, you got A for the day. You know what I'm saying? Now, so dealing with the hidden pilgrims and Templars and the African Gate. Last week, in my recap, here it is. This is for Brother Mo. Here it is. I had to go and deal with this. Last week in my recap video, the Gates of the Duat, Book of Gates of Amduat, and the Soul's Journey in African Mysticism. Here it is. This person said this. He said, all false. That was his comment. His name is All Is on ALLIS1. All is one, I guess. 365. All is one, 365. It doesn't have a person's face. My response was this: when you are saying it is all false, what sources do you have to counter this information? Or did you come here to argue? Yep. Every now and then he would show up and he would say this is false or what. I say, okay, I'm showing you the books. I'm even referring to some of your people, some of your colleagues, some of their books. And you saying all of it's false? Which one, which segment, which section is false? And if it's all false, do you have something else? Do you have a counter? He has yet to answer. Yeah. I get that sometimes, y'all. I get, people saying it's all Afrocentric or it's all wrong or whatever. Okay, if it's wrong, let me know where it's wrong. Or some, but you know what I learned about some people? Check this out, man. This is what I learned about some people. Some people would argue just because they want attention, or they don't know how to say, hey, I don't know this and I need to learn. Some people argue in hopes that you would teach them low key, but I don't have time for that. I would kick clowns out. I would kick clowns out of class. I would do that. Brother Ferguson said, Ray Ray and them mom said so. No, it wasn't Ray Ray and them mom neither. I think it was it was Susan and them. It was one of them. Yeah. Yeah, he just wanted to be heard. Yeah. He said the Penamac lesson was powerful. I really appreciate that. Yeah, we may have to get back to that because we're gonna really go further south and deal with. We're not done with the Penamac and the Nubians. We're not done with that. Yeah. But yeah, Ray and him says so. Yeah, a lot of this stuff they get is from sound bites, TikTok, and Betty Crocker. A lot of this stuff is homemade. And what really makes them upset is when you ask them where did they get that information from. You have your sources, you have your references, you have articles, you have books, but then when you ask them, hey, if it's wrong or if it's a different opinion, where did you find that? Now all of a sudden they mad and want to call you all kind of names and everything. We're just having a civil conversation. We're just having a conversation, right? He said, leave Susie alone from the mountains. Well, they the ones that emerge from the mountains and cause chaos like this. Brother Ferguson says, leave Susie alone. and they from those mountains. Well, they the ones who came out the mountains, started doing all this. Spent a lot of time fighting each other, 100 Years War and everything. When they got through fighting each other, they want to fight it. They want to fight the whole world. Bro, just say you're hungry. Just say you want some chicken. Shoot. Just say that, bro. Just say you need a hug. You know what I'm saying? Come on, chill out. So that's what that was. All right. So yeah, in Ethiopia, dealing with the Knights Templar in Ethiopia, they found a lot. They found a few things, right? They found a priesthood older than Rome, steeped in solar and lunar rites and Judaic memory. They found churches carved into the mountains aligned with the stars. They found monks who chant coded Zima that resonated with angelic frequencies. They found a kingdom ruled by Solomonic kings, echoing the Templars' own devotion to Solomon's wisdom. You talking about King Solomon, they doing that work. Very similar to Sobek Neferu, where she was exemplifying what the Egyptian priests were reading about. He said, you heard about this, but we're doing this. We're doing the work, right? Yeah. And so I think Brother Ferguson, what he said, yeah, we're over here in this nice little corner learning. Yeah, we all over here in King Cam and Ujumbe podcast, we all fellowshipping, we learning. We don't need all that negative attention. We don't need all that over here. Yeah, I get it. But yeah, so that's what they found. They found the priesthood. They found churches duly established. They found a system already done. They found monks and in order. That's what they found. Okay. Now we discussed the Knights Templar, but we will be talking about the military orders of Ethiopia in a few minutes. So get ready for that. Yeah, I'm excited about that. Yeah. Shout out to Mo. He asked the question, what about the other? What are some other military orders in Africa? Yeah, we're gonna get to that. So far we talked about the 4 pillars, connecting the dots. We did a recap, historical arc, who came and why, the hidden pilgrims, Lalibela, we're gonna get into that, the Debteras and Defender orders, Ethiopia's sacred knights. We're gonna get into that. Guardians of the Ark, the Final Covenant, sacred rites and rituals, and I'm checking roll. And I may have something esoteric on my sleeve too. Now, Lalibela. Okay, Lalibela, the temple of the hidden code. See, in the 12th century, King Lalibela of the Zigwe dynasty commissioned a series of rock-hewn churches, unlike anything in the world, right? Carved directly into the living stone of the Ethiopian highlands. These 11 monolithic churches were said to have built with divine assistance, completed in a miraculously short time through a fusion of royal vision and angelic labor. But these weren't just churches; they were blueprints, right? And so, it was 11 churches, right? And it was built out of living rock. In other words, they didn't carve it out of a quarry and then move it to that location. They just cut everything out in one place, right? And so, in this case, I'm sorry, let me get back to that. Dealing with that, the Lalibela was meant to be the New Jerusalem, right? It was built, its symbolism runs far deeper. Scholars and mystics alike point to several layers of sacred coding within it. It had an astronomical alignment. Okay, certain churches align with solstice sunrises and constellation points, marking seasonal thresholds and divine appointments. And of course, we discussed the underworld descent. The complex begins with churches associated with suffering and descent. Then it ascends upward towards resurrection and divine union, mirroring the ancient mystery schools path from death to rebirth or resurrection, right? They also had initiatory pathways. The narrow passageways and symbolic trenches serve as spiritual tests, requiring purification, silence, and surrender before one can reach the heart of the complex, which, for example, like the Church of St. George or the Church of St. Mary. Some believe that Lalibela is not just symbolic of Jerusalem, but it can be pre-Christian or pre-Judaic. It connects to the Judeo-Christian African temple science. Many of its chambers reflect older system, okay, an older monotheistic religion, okay. So it is if, say, for example, as if King Lalibela wasn't trying to mimic the Holy Land, he was revealing what came before that. That's what I think. I think he wasn't just trying to imitate Jerusalem. He was trying to he was trying to resurface or resurrect the old way or the old path of Ethiopia, right? And remember, the oral tradition says, for example, the Ark was present in Ethiopia long before Lalibela, before he even came into existence. Some even believe that one of the churches was constructed over a sacred line or sacred area to amplify, say, the Ark's energy, the Ark's power. Okay, Lalibela then is a temple encoded full of vibration, full of power, where stone and sound and shadow create a living interface with the divine or with the Neteru, right? So when you walk, if you ever get the chance to travel, go to Lalibela, you don't just go underground, you go inward. That's a journey. One day I am going to road trip to Ethiopia. I am going to do that. You know what I'm saying? And I'm going to take a bunch of pictures. But yeah, I want to go. I want to visit the family in Ethiopia. But now, Here it is. Debteras and Defender Orders, Ethiopia's Sacred Knights. Yep. But before I get to that, I got a question. Before I get to that, I got a question. Now, throwback 90s R&B or Gen Z trap soul. Okay, like Jacquees and SZA now. So we got throwback 90s R&B or trap soul. Y'all like and comment below. Let me know. Throwback R&B, or Mo says throwback 90s R&B, like Genuine in them. They had the baby hair. Volta says likewise, King. Trip to Ethiopia most definitely on my list. Yeah. It is. If I had the money, Lord's will, if I had the money, I would do a massive road trip from Ethiopia all the way up to Nile Valley. That would take some months, but I would do that. What's going on, Edwin? What's going on, Brother Moore? He's he came to figure out what's going on with his art. He came to figure that out. Throwback R&B. What's going on? Shout out to the fam, Brother Ferguson. So the verdict is passed. Okay, the people have spoken. 90s R&B. So be it. Okay, African royalty. Shout out to the fan. Peace, Brother Cam. I picked throwback. Yeah. It had when I'm gonna say this. Man, look, that girl had Jodeci in them out there in the desert with leather pants, singing, "Baby, I'm begging." I'm just saying, in the desert, leather pants, or you in the rain, like boy at the men talking about you down on bending knee and everything with a tuba player next to you. Yeah, man. Yeah. So 90s R&B wins. Yeah. Road trip. Yeah, man. Well, I gotta fly. We gotta fly first. You know what I'm saying, and then go. Yeah, I'm saying that I want to be able to go to Ethiopia, fellowship with the fam down there, then go to Sudan because we gotta chop it up with the fam in Sudan, and and the Aswan people, then go to Kemet. Yeah. Well, he has an interesting proposition. One day you get a trip together for the channel, and we can all go. Man, that'd be cool. Yeah, that'd be cool. He said, back down the Nile Valley. Yeah, going down up south. Yeah, going from Ethiopia all the way up. Yeah, that'd be cool. Yeah, but it's still a road trip, man. You know what I'm saying? Go out there and fellowship and everything. All right, let's go. All right, so the Debteras and Defender Orders. Okay. Yeah. There is a lot of issues going on in Sudan right now. It is, and their brothers and sisters, and the same thing going on in Ethiopia. Really, it's and meanwhile, Europe is watching. Yeah. So Debteras and Defender Orders, Ethiopia's Sacred Knights. And so Debteras was more than we got to deal with the hidden warriors, the hidden orders of the Ethiopian world, or the Nile Valley world, the ones the world forgot. We heard about Templars, we heard about the Knights, in Europe, but we even talk about, sometimes we know about the samurai, and things like that. But what about Debteras, right? Now, the Debteras were more than priests. Okay, they were more than priests. They were mystical scribes, exorcists, astronomers, and protectors, trained in secret. Often from childhood, they memorized sacred books that were never written down. Okay, so yeah, some information may be written down, but there's some things that are going to them from mouth to ear that outsiders may not get, right? And Debtera perform powerful incantations and carry amulets encoded with divine names and cosmic formulas. They defended the land with words as much as weapons. They didn't just pray. They didn't. They not just pray and everything. They kind of threw hands too. They defended the land with the words and as much as weapons. And they stood at the crossroads of medicine and magic, scripture and science. You need them both. You need all of these things. What happens is we hyper focus on one and neglect the others, right? And so we have the Debteras, the Zamani. I may be pronouncing it wrong. Shout out to the family Ethiopia. Let me know. The Zamani warriors, a term used for those trained in the spiritual art of liturgical chant as a form of energetic warfare. The Zema wasn't just music; it was protection. Chanting the right in the right tone at the right time was believed to create shields, awaken the angels, even the Netaru or the ancestors, and or even disrupt enemy spells. Because in Africa, we believe it's not just a physical warfare, but there is a spiritual warfare, right? These chants could call down divine energy into real-time situations, elevating their community's vibration in the face of oppression. That's the Zemini War. This is a picture of the Zemini Wars. I think it's about 100 years old. They have their shields, they have their spears or their guns. They ready. They ready. Okay. Them shields and them swords weren't just for show. Okay. Okay. It wasn't just symbolic. It wasn't just ritual. You gonna get that. So, yeah. So now we have the Order of Tekle Haymanot. Tekle Haymanot is centered at the sacred monastery of Debri Labanos. The order is built upon the life of Ethiopia's most beloved saint. Tekle Haymanot is said to have stood in unbroken prayer for 7 years until one of his legs gave out. That's a long time to pray. That is a very long time, right? He prayed for 7 years. Would you pray without breaks? No break. Okay. He prayed until his legs gave out. Man. Okay. In iconography, he is depicted with wings symbolizing the divine service, his ability to transcend, and his role as the protector of the spiritual realm. Okay. Now, his order combined monastic discipline and divine guardianship. They were spiritual sentinels who held vigil not only over sacred books and relics, but over the energetic gate between the heaven and the earth. Okay. The wings of Tekle Haymanot are not myth, they are metaphor. He's the embodiment of sacrifice, inner flame, and spiritual vigilance. Okay. Yeah. Let's see what the family's saying. Yeah, that is some committed faith. Yeah, you up to praying for 7 years and your legs give out. Yeah, that deacon prayed a long time. But yeah. He was committed. Brother Moore said he was committed. That's real committed faith. Yes, sir. Yeah. And so now this is a picture. This is King Tekle Haymanot of Gajam. Okay, this is, of course, it's the original Tekle Haymanot, and this is somebody who named himself after him. Okay, from 1847 to 1901. Okay, he was a ruler in Ethiopia in the late 1800s. Okay, he named himself after Tekle Haymanot. Okay. Now, and in more recent centuries, Ethiopia's divine defense orders expanded, right? They expanded under the Order of Tekle Haymanot. They expanded under Emperor Menelik II. That's the guy. That is the guy. Okay, he wasn't playing with nothing and nobody. Okay, yeah, we know about Haile Selassie, and shout out to the fam and everything, but Emperor Menelik II, he wasn't joking. He was not joking. So he had the Royal Cavalry and elite guards extension of sacred law. So Emperor Menelik, he was a military strategist. Okay. Before battle, many of the soldiers underwent spiritual blessings and tactical instruction in monasteries, receiving both spiritual training and martial training. Okay. Their warfare was seen as an act of divine justice. Okay. Remember, the British were at their gate, and they defended themselves against the Jesuits and everybody else. And here comes this new group that's showing up, right? And so their warfare was seen as an act of divine justice, an outward manifestation of the kingdom's inner covenant with heaven. Remember, Menelik I was, according to their tradition, was Makeda, was Solomon and Makeda's son, who brought the ark with him. You see what I'm saying? So now we got one more. The orders of Ethiopia. We got the Kafar warriors. All right, this is modern era. Okay, the Kafar people, also known as the Danakil, are a Kushite ethnic group primarily residing in the Horn of Africa, specifically in the Afar region of Ethiopia, Eritrea, Djibouti. They were renowned for their warrior culture and traditional weaponry, including the carved knife. As you can see, this young gentleman he got right here, known as the Jili. I told you this stuff wasn't just for show. Okay, you can get that work too. So anybody can get it. You see his face. He wasn't playing, right? So Ethiopians knights didn't wear the armor like we would see on TV. They wore white robes. Their swords was the scripture. The swords were real swords too. Their battlefields were spiritual and often invisible. So these defender orders upheld like a covenant. When the Jesuit ministries would come, the Turkish armies or the Ottoman Empire or internal threats came to undermine the spiritual code of Ethiopia, it was these hidden groups, these hidden lineages that stood in the gap, guardians not just of land, but language, chant, culture, and sacred rite. Yeah, they were the keepers of the ark. We got the ark in a minute. The ark's frequency not always physically near it, but they were guarding its principles. They guarded what it represented. Their presence was decentralized, hidden in monasteries, churches, and sacred groves, just like in Kemet when in Waset in Thebes, the pharaoh, the Insubiti, had his soldiers, but the temples had their own soldiers too, right? But when they was called, they moved with sacred precision. They wasn't playing with you. They wasn't asking no questions. They were just gonna let it happen, right? And some were said to appear in dreams before battles or natural disasters, carrying flaming swords and scrolls of light. So they weren't just defending an empire; they was defending a sacred frequency. Okay, they were defending Ethiopia. Matter of fact, when I think, correct me if I'm wrong. I think in World War One, I think it was World War II, when Ethiopia when Italy was trying to invade Ethiopia, and they sent out a clarion call. The people of African descent in America signed up to fight for Ethiopia, and they was denied. They were denied. Meanwhile, the folk of Italian descent was able to fight over there with Italy. Make that make sense, right? So they were defending the sacred knowledge that was passed down from Sheba to Lalibela, from the Gundar. They were custodians of hidden light, protecting not just Ethiopia but the people, but Africa as a whole. The Templars carried swords, but Ethiopia And Debteras they also carried knowledge, they carried light. Okay. Now, so we have the Debteras, the Zamani order, the Order of Tekle Haymanot, the Afar. If there are other orders, shout out to the fam in the South, in Sudan, in Ethiopia. If there are other orders, let me know, like and comment below. All right, let's get it. Now, the guardians of the Ark, the final covenant. Yep. Now we're right at the heart of this whole thing. The what, the who, what, when, where, and why, right? The Ark of the Covenant. For centuries, Ethiopia has held claim, unlike any other. They had the Ark. Yeah, the Ark of the Covenant. We're not talking about Raiders of the Lost Ark when they found that thing in Kemet somewhere, right? It wasn't in some kind of European museum or beneath a demolished temple, but in the walls of Axum. Okay, under watch of guardians sworn to secrecy. According to Ethiopian tradition, the ark was brought to Axum by Menelik I, the son of Solomon, and the queen of Sheba, Makeda, marking Ethiopia as the true continuation of the Solomonic covenant. This sacred transference placed Ethiopia at the center of a divine lineage. Okay, with a responsibility to preserve both the relic and cosmic agreement is symbolized. Okay, now the ark, according to tradition, according to the Ethiopian Orthodox Church, the ark resides in the Church of St. Mary of Zion. Okay, watched over by a single guardian selected through divine guidance by senior priests. Okay, and once chosen, he remains cloistered, celibate, and ritually pure until death. That's the book of Leviticus type stuff, right? And so the guardian undergoes esoteric rites that include fasting, sacred reading of hidden scrolls, and deep communion with the ark's spiritual frequency. His role is more than ceremonial. He is understood to be spiritually merged with the ark. By the way, this picture is by the New York Post. Okay, he's guardian. He's the only one, right? So many believe that the guardian communicates with the divine, okay, with the angels, okay, or the ancestors, the divine entities, and receive dreams and visions connected to the destiny of the Ethiopian people. The tradition is rooted by the tradition. The tradition is rooted in the Zadokite priesthood, a Levitical line of high priests from the first temple of Jerusalem. Ethiopia is said to have preserved this lineage long after it was suppressed or destroyed in the Near East. As I said before, as I said earlier in the discussion, Moses, his wife was Zipporah, and she was Ethiopian. His father-in-law Jethro, okay, was, according to the book of Exodus, the priest of the Most High God. Keep in mind, Israel as a nation was still in Egypt. So this Ethiopian already had knowledge of the priest of the Most High God. Okay, so Ethiopia was always connected like that from the very beginning. Okay, so the thing is, who guards the ark? Okay, it's not armies, it's not machines, but monks, one man at a time, chosen for life, never to leave the sanctuary again. Okay. Now, really quick, many believe the guardian communicates with, like I said, with the divine. Okay, that's through prayer and fasting, right? And so, in the mystical tradition, the ark represents the Merkava. Merkava, Merkavah, the divine chariot or throne described in the book of Ezekiel. Okay, it is viewed as a multidimensional portal, a vessel through which divine presence enters the physical world. Okay, where the divine actually touch down and encounter everybody else. It is the The ark is constructed of acacia wood overlaid with gold. The ark is also seen as a divine capacitor capable of storing and radiating spiritual energy, a fusion of the mortal and immortal realms. You see the famous talking. He said, yeah. So that the ark, it symbolized a lot of things, but most importantly, it symbolized, in a sense, the presence of God. Okay. That's what it wasn't the ark, but put in the wrong hands, it was going to be they was going to try to use it as a weapon. It's not a weapon. The ark is not a weapon, it's a mirror. Only people aligned with order, with divinity, can hold that reflection or even be close to it. Okay. And so now, esoteric. Yes, sir. We're gonna get into a little esoteric information to do with this ark. Okay. Yeah, the esoteric knowledge of the ark. Yeah, I had to throw a little bit of esoteric knowledge in there. Had to do a little bit of it. I'm not a Hebraic Old Testament scholar in a sense, but I still like to share a little bit of this information, right? And Kabbalistic tradition aligned with it's aligned with the ark, with the Sherifah and Yesod. Okay, the foundation through which the divine emanations pass into from the spiritual world into the material world. In Ethiopian mysticism, this is interpreted as a conventional guardianship. The ark is both relic and the living throne of divine memory. The guardian itself, the person who's guarding it, is like a pillar, a living pillar, ritually deified through service, embodying the sacred union between the Shekinah. Now, the Shekinah for Old Testament, that represents the presence of God, right? And so you have that present God's presence, and in a sense, Shekinah is a feminine term. Okay, that is the feminine presence of God. Okay, his isolation is a mystical act, separation from the world to preserve the integrity of that divine current. Some Ethiopian texts even hint that an initiate is hidden within or close to the ark. So there are scrolls and tablets encoded not just with the law, but cosmic geometry, harmonic formulas, and creation codes. Not only the guardian or high-ranking monks may engage with this. Okay, in this light, Ethiopian guardians are not merely protectors of national treasure; they are final stewards of cosmic protocol. Their vigilance is a message. Until this is what I think. Say until the world returns to its balance, the ark will remain hidden. Okay, until say Ma'at and order is restored, the covenant remains sealed. But now, I'm not an Old Testament teacher, but the Ark of the Covenant itself is made of acacia wood. That is a solid, thick wood. Okay, that is symbolic of humanity. Okay, that is symbolic of humanity, and it having that overlay of gold that is divinity. And inside, according to the Old Testament, inside of it had the rod of Aaron, and the Ten Commandments, the law. Okay, encased in that. So we as a people should be a representation, a mirror of those things. Okay, we should be peaceful, but also be ready to exude justice wherever it happens, right? And so like I said, until the world returns to balance, till peace kind of comes, the ark will be hidden, and the Ethiopians will be more than happy to keep it hidden, right? So we're gonna do a quick comparison. While the West fights over relics and ruins, Ethiopia, they guard the information, they guard the flame. The ark isn't just a box; it is frequency, and the one who guards it becomes the ark's shadow itself. So the Templars, on one hand, the Templars, they were Templar monks, but the Ethiopians were the priest guardians, right? The Templars, they looked for the ark. The Ethiopians had the ark. The Templars were into physical warfare, visible warfare. Ethiopians the Ethiopian guardians spiritual warfare. Okay. And they were on one side, the Templars were suppressed by European rulers and even the Pope. The Ethiopians were protected by the rulers, right? The Ethiopian priests. So what if the Templars came not to bring the sacred, but to witness lineage had never been broken? I don't think so. I think they, in my opinion, I think they was really trying to come out and take that, just like they tried to take everything else, right? Now, really quick, sacred rites and rituals, temple protocols, and cosmic ritual science, right? Now, let's get into the innermost part, the inner science of sacred rites and rituals that bound the world of the spirit and the physical world in the state of in the ancient Ethiopian, Kushite, and Kemetic continuum. In these African civilizations, ritual was not just a symbolic theater. It was operational technology. It was a sacred science. Okay. Every temple ceremony, every incense that was being burned, every chant, libation being poured was part of this whole cosmic order, right? So Ethiopia, its legacy was carried through intricate liturgical cycles, especially in the Ethiopian Orthodox Church, chanting of the divine liturgy, the in Ge'ez, Geez, Ge'ez, the sacred tongue, was believed to echo the angelic languages spoken at the dawn of time. Priests would anoint the altar with holy oils infused with frankincense and myrrh. You heard that a lot. Frankincense and myrrh, only really found in that area. Substances known for their spiritual resonance. These oils were not just it wasn't for aroma. It was more than that, right? It basically those incense and the aroma was going up as prayers and praise, right? In Lalibela, the city, rock-hewn churches, sacred processions that would pass through symbolic tunnels and cross-shaped passageways, reenacting the soul descent and resurrection. Every step, every bell, every priestly movement mirrored the journey through the celestial underworld, echoing the earlier Amduat in the Book of Gates. In Kemet, temple architecture itself was ritualized. Each structure mirrored the human body. Okay. Each structure mirrored the human body. We broke down I think we did a little bit of Hatshepsut's temple before, but we may get back into that again. And in a previous video, we discussed Hatshepsut's temple. It represented the different phases, represented the different phase of an initiate, and the sanctuary or the Holy of Holies or Jeseru represented the mind of the person, right? And so the inner sanctum, where the divine image was housed, was the spiritual equivalent of the heart of or for some people that are into that, the pineal gland. Only the high priest, ritually purified, could enter and commune with the deity during those rites. These rites were synced with solar movement, especially at equinoxes, solstice, and we are in the midst of summer solstice right now. Well, about like a week or so. Yeah. When the veil between realms was the thinnest. Okay, these they were energetic equations, these chants and these incense, the orientation of altars, how the altars were situated, where they were placed. They opened portals, they reset vibrational frequencies of an entire nation. So even the robes worn by the priest represented something, right? Let me see what the family saying. Yeah, it says, Brother Melvin Reed, he said, I beseech you, brother, teach what you preach. And Brother Ferguson says, sacred science to us, but the other side, mumbo jumbo, that they can't understand. This is correct. This is correct. This is correct. To those who don't understand, they're not going to understand, right? So even the robes worn by priests in Ethiopia and ancient Kemet were encoded with sacred geometry, colors representing divine forces, patterns reflecting star charts, the thread counts aligned with numerological value. Even sacred dancing or liturgical movement was also more than, say, praise. It was invocation. It was a outward expression of what was happening to the soul. It was passed down in priesthood schools, with each step corresponding to an aspect of the divine. The Ethiopian Kene poetry, composed in layered allegories and metaphors, were performed during rites to conceal sacred meanings from the uninitiated. Okay, and we have things like the Timket celebration, water rituals during the Epiphany. That is during the springtime. Okay, but not springtime. That's Easter. Epiphany. Epiphany. I'm trying to get my church calendar together. That is earlier in the spring. That is like in the winter time almost. Enacted Christ's baptism, and also recalled the older Nile and the white Nile and blue Nile ceremonies of purification. Okay, flood renewal and spiritual rebirth. The merging of Ethiopian Christianity with indigenous water rites preserve ancient metaphysical science under the language of Christian idea. So when the priest raises the cross above the water, he's not just asking the blessing. There's a continuation. There's a continuation of the process. So from the Nile temples of Kemet to the stone sanctuaries of Lalibela, sacred rites maintained it maintained divine favor, divine order. So understand, when we talk about rituals in Africa, we're talking about it's more than superstition. Okay, it's a custom, it's culture. And today we talked about those rites being they try to suppress it, they try to commercialize it, or they just write it off and misunderstand it, right? But they carry something higher, they carry something greater. These lineages, these chants, these processions, these rhythms are part of what we do and who we are, right? But check this out. Thought about this though. I got a question. Who are the Ethiopian people? As I was doing this, this is like something I thought about. Who are the Ethiopian people? Because we would think it's just one group. Is it this person? Okay, is the Ethiopian people, is he the representative of Ethiopia, or is it she? Okay, who are the Ethiopian people? Okay, who are they? Or is it him? You see, normally the Western world would see one phenotype or one type of Ethiopian and not the others. Okay, these guys are Ethiopian also. Okay, he's Ethiopian, she's Ethiopian, he's Ethiopian, right? They're Ethiopian. Okay, so who are they? Okay, these Ethiopian also. Okay, what happens is the commercial Western world will show you one group of Ethiopian and not show the others, which is not fair. Okay, now, but shout out to, while we out here, shout out to the Amhara, the Somali, the Sidama, the Tigrayans, the Garaj, the Afar, the Oromo, the Waliata. Okay, I may be mispronouncing it. Y'all just correct me. The Gamo, but remember, out of all these people, we are still one. Okay, we're still one. Now, so we just got to talking about the Rise and Fall, Knights Code, and the Ethiopian Stronghold. And that being said, this summer we are in the midst of a new series, Ethiopia, Kemet, and Kush, a unified sacred art. Yeah, this is what we're doing this summer. Okay, we got a lot of things to address and discuss, so we're gonna get in on it this summer. We're gonna have a good time, and I do have some book recommendations, including the ones I just showed you, but I have a few more. Okay, we got that, and somebody asked the question: can you break down the Meroitic script? We did some Metal Nature, okay, but we will do our best to discuss some of the Meroitic script. It is not really deciphered, but we will try. Okay, I'm not going to say I know how to do it, but I will do the homework. Okay, shout out to the family who put me to the task of that. So if you want to learn more about Ethiopia, Kemet, and Kush, hit the like button and subscribe. Okay, We're gonna get into that. So we do have a segment. We will be dealing with. We got a special Thursday series with the Echoes of Nubia. So on Thursdays we will have pre-recordings on Nubia. Okay, and that being said, this Thursday we will have a recording on the Three Crowns. It is a recording. It will not be alive. It'll be recorded. So the question, who is she? I do not know. Very popular picture though. Very popular. I think it did come out. It was made in the late 1800s though. Okay. But yeah, she is from Sudan. Yeah, she is regal. Yeah, yeah, yeah. And you see the ancient scarification. And the argument is the Heru Em Aket, or the Sphinx, is the Sphinx is not a man, it is the face of a woman with Nubian scarification. Okay. Yeah, shout out to African royalty. She is Nubian. Yeah, she is Nubian. The question just, do we know her name? You know, ancestors' names are, ancestors, their names are important. Do we know her name? You see what I'm saying? But yeah, for sure. We are in agreement. She is Nubian. Yeah. Yeah, for sure. All right. So yeah, so this Thursday, we're going to have a recording. It will come out, the Three Crowns. We're going to talk about the we're going to talk about how these three crowns of Ethiopia, Kemet, and Kush came to be before the divide, right? And next Sunday, all right, here it is. Then Sunday, we'll enter the heart of this lineage, the women who carried it all. Okay, we're going to talk about the role of women. Okay, the prophetess, queens, divine mothers of the Nile Valley. We're going to get into that, because without them, there is no ark, there is no Nile Valley culture, there is no order, there's nothing, right? So yeah, next Sunday, we will have another live discussion about that. So yeah, get ready for that. Now, we talked about the pillars, pillar Ethiopia, the source and sanctuary, Kemet, the blueprint, okay, Kush, Kush and Nubia, the corridor and continuity, the hidden code. We're gonna do this as we go along. Yeah, without our sisters, we're in trouble. We're in trouble. Yeah, these are facts. All right. Now, we talked about our pillars. We talked about the connecting the dots recap, historical art, the hidden pilgrims, Lalibela, Debteras, and defender orders, Ethiopian sacred knights, guardians of the art, the final covenant, sacred rites, and a little bit esoteric information. Now for the check roll. And if you have any questions, get those questions ready. Here we go. Oh, forgot the book. All right, books. The Wonderful Ethiopians of the Ancient Kushite Empire by Sister Drusilla Dungy Houston. That's a good one. Here's another one, African Dominion, a new history of empire in early and medieval West Africa. Okay, the links are in the description. The affiliate links are in the description. The Lost Ark of the Covenant by Tudor Parfit. Okay, that's another good one. Check that out. Ethiopians and the Origin of Civilization by John G. Jackson. It's a short one, but it's a good one. Okay, check that out. The link is also in the description also. And yeah, we got the Book of Common For by Day. Okay, we got that, and the Ethiopians: A History by Richard Pankhurst. That is the Wonderful Ethiopians of the Ancient Kushite Empire and the Ethiopians of History. That is our anchor. That's where we're gonna kind of rest at a lot when we're doing our work in Ethiopia, right? And of course, I have my own book for the fam. This is my new book, The Crusades Jihad in East Africa. It is also out. Okay, we will do a mini discussion later on with that book. Okay, but yeah, so that's the book. Okay, so Crusades and Jihad in East Africa. A lot of people